everyone, my name is Josh and this is Whimsical and Interesting Musings, and today I will be talking about a film called Frailty, which was released in 2001, written by Brent Hanley and directed by Bill Paxton. And this film follows a man named Fenton Meeks, played by Matthew McConaughey, who goes to a sheriff's office one night and he claims to have information on the true identity of a notorious murderer known as the God's Hand Killer, who happens to be his younger brother. And this film is the directorial debut of Bill Paxton, who's a well-known actor. He was mostly well-known for being in films like Aliens. He played Hudson in Aliens. He was in Near Dark. And he was also in films like Weird Science, Twister, and a couple of other things. But he's mostly well-known for his very charismatic direction, his very charismatic performances. He plays these very charismatic and almost comedic characters. He has some great one-liners like "Game over, man, game over, what the F are we going to do now?" and Aliens. And he's basically been given a lot of great performances and he's had a lot of great, roles over the years. But this is his only directorial debut. And I have to say, for a directorial debut, this is fantastic because, let's face it, it's very hard to basically get a film directed and made. So I feel like what Bill Paxton was able to take on with this film was such a massive undertaking that you've got to give him credit for directing this film and being able to tell such an incredible story visually as well as he could. Like, say, for example, when the central conflict of the film is whether or not Fenton is going to rat out his brother to the police officer in this particular film about, this killing that's going on. And we get the story that his father... It started off with his father getting a vision from an angel saying that you need to kill these demons. And we need to get these items together, which is an axe with the name Lotus on it, a lead pipe, and a pair of gardening gloves. So he needs to get these things and a couple of other things, like duct tape, for instance, to tie them up. And it starts to get very sinister, and Fenton believes that this is downright murder, that he's actually taking human life, and he's actually, doing it because he's snapped, because he can't deal with the pressure and responsibility of looking after two children. And Fenton just thinks his foot is firmly on the grounds of reality, where he thinks, yeah, this is totally straight up murder. And let's bear this in mind. Fenton is the older brother. He's the one who literally is with Adam 24/7, his younger brother Adam 24/7. They have a very good relationship. They're very, they're very laid back. They have a good time. They have a laugh. They enjoy their time at school. They work very hard. They're very hard workers. But Fenton has had to literally be both the older sibling and the parent, because Adam's mother had actually died after she had given birth to Adam. So he literally has had to be a almost surrogate parent. He's had to be an extra parent because of what's happened with their mother, essentially. And it really does put a lot of pressure also on the dad, played by Bill Paxton, who doesn't really have a name. So you really do get the impression that there's a lot going on. The dad's had to basically work a job as a mechanic, but he's also had to do other things to support his family. So he has a lot of pressure going on him. So you literally think right off the bat that, okay, the dad's gone crazy. He's just snapped, and he basically has this idea of, oh, we're going to kill demons, but we're also going to, pretend that they're not people so we can make it, easier on ourselves and make the task a little bit easier. And when he touches them, he claims to see their true form, which is, of course, their sins and other things. But what really is interesting is that you don't see what he sees. So you're kind of looking at it from Fenton's perspective and you're thinking to yourself, okay, he's just gone crazy. But then there's also things that happen throughout the course of the film that could sway you into thinking maybe this is real, or maybe this is sort of interesting, because there's a scene where he says, I've been given the list, I've written down the names, and here they are. And Adam says, I've written my own list, Dad. And he looks at it and he goes, oh, this person's name's on here. Was he the kid that was picking on you at school? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, we can't actually use this list, son. This is actually a real life person. We can't just write a list of people that we don't like to kill. We have to kill demons. Otherwise it will be straight up murder. So the dad knows what the difference between murder and what this sacred task he claims to be on is. So he knows the difference between the two. But what's very interesting is that Fenton seems to be the voice of reason. He seems to be the moral anchor of this entire backstory. And when you see Matthew McConaughey's performance in the present day as he's telling his story to the detective, you can see the pain in his eyes. You can see the weight that he's had to carry all these years, knowing that these murders have happened and that no one's believed him about it. So when he tells this detective this story, he feels like he's letting off this incredible weight off of his shoulders after keeping it hidden for so long. And it's such a powerful performance. And I really do have to give credit to Matthew McConaughey alone. But I also want to give credit, I do apologise for the sounds that are coming from outside. I've actually had to open a window just to let some air in. But yeah, back to the film. I also want to give credit to Mr. Bill Paxton's direction, because I feel like getting a film directed and produced is a very difficult thing to do. So the fact that Bill Paxton really put a lot of effort into directing this film and really kind of making sure that it was as good as it was is not a very easy thing to do. So I really do give him credit that this was his directorial debut and he chose such a meaty script, because honestly this script is incredible. I feel like the way the script is structured, this film is literally masterfully done. From the way it's introduced, from this character, Fenton, who's played by Matthew McConaughey, coming into this guy's office and telling he has information on the God's Hand killer, this notorious murderer, and, trying to basically go between, trying to turn his brother into the hands of justice, or try to basically reason with the detective and say, we were struggling on difficult times, we were as poor could be without being homeless, we were living in the country, we had a father who was only supporting us through our jobs. So he's trying to appeal to his humanity at the beginning. Like, he's trying to say that, look, we were struggling on difficult times, we came from a bad home, and our dad just snapped, give us a break. But then also, he's also just basically letting off all this weight and all this steam. So you really do get the impression that he is literally trying to do both. He's trying to undergo therapy because he's trying to tell someone who he hasn't been able to tell for years this information, but then he's also trying to deal with the fact that he's also committing something that's actually quite terrible, which is he's selling his own brother out so that he can feel good about himself and feel like the hand of justice was delivered. So there's a really big dilemma, and it feels almost like a biblical story with the way it's actually structured. It feels like I know it's a very weird film to compare this to, but it feels almost like a Prince of Egypt type film, where it focuses on the relationship between these two brothers, Moses and Ramesses, and how even though they're adopted, they grew up together, and they kind of grew up together, they raised each other, they were raised together, and they were kind of raised in wealth and privilege, but they always looked out for each other. And like Ramesses says in that film, you're always getting me into trouble, but you're always there to get me out. It's kind of the same with Fenton and Adam, where these characters really are literally so close and they're so likeable together, and they have such great chemistry as siblings that you really do kind of feel sad for them when they have to undergo this task of killing demons and literally see their father, go crazy potentially. But then Adam believes wholeheartedly, like his father, that he is hunting demons and he's doing this for the greater good. Whereas Fenton doesn't see what they see. Fenton doesn't see at all what they see. So he's literally seeing what we would see if we were seeing this from an outsider's perspective. And it's so powerfully done because you really do feel the weight of everything. You even feel the weight of what Bill Paxton's character, the dad, has to go through in carrying out this task. He says to Fenton when he's about to commit the first murder of their demon hunting days, he says, if I could spare you of this, son, I would, but you have to see it. You have to see it for yourself. And it's actually quite heartbreaking to see, because Bill Paxton literally gives a career best here. He literally gives such an incredible performance, because he really does show the stern fatherly figure presence, but he also shows how kind and how caring he can be. Like, there's this really wonderful scene. There's one really nice scene where all three of them are together. It's when they're having dinner and they're talking about homework, and he says, how's your maths homework going, Fenton? And then he goes, oh, I hate it, I really don't like maths, and all the rest of it. And his dad just basically says, well, I'm not clever, I'm not smart at all, I'm not, like, I wasn't good at maths at school either, so I don't claim to be intelligent, but we'll sit down together when I'm off work one day and we'll tackle it together. We'll do that maths homework together. And I really like that because it shows how close this family is, even though it's just three of them. And you really just get this impression that all they have is each other. So when this horrible thing is kind of delivered to them, it feels almost like a godsend. But at the same time, it could also be a bad thing because it creates a rift between this family where Fenton is literally on the other side of the fence compared to, you know, his brother and his father. His father and his brother are literally committed to the task of killing demons, but Fenton doesn't see it that way. So you go back and forth, and because you're seeing it entirely, you're hearing about it from Fenton's point of view, you really do kind of think to yourself, we're only just seeing the cold, dark reality of it, whereas if we were to see it from the other brother's perspective, we are seeing it almost like a supernatural kind of thing, like the TV show Supernatural, where it is literally all the demons are real, all the evil in the world is real, all the supernatural stuff is real, but we literally can't tell anybody about it because people would think we're crazy and all these other things. So it really does present a very interesting argument where what would happen if your loved one, a brother or anything like that, was doing something really terrible. What would you have to do? Would you turn them into the police, or do keep it hidden and try to justify to yourself that, oh yes, we are committing God's work? What would you do? And that's something that really is quite interesting, and it's very well explored through this dialogue. And there's even a scene, there's a line which I really do think is very masterfully done. It's actually a very good recurring line, kind of like in Shaun of the Dead, where they would use lines, certain lines like "how you doing surviving," and they would recontextualize it later on. This film also does that. This film's script also does that with the line, "Why would I need to make this up?" Which is, it's used, I think, 3 times. Once when Fenton and Adam have just committed the first murder, or they're contemplating this information that their dad's just given them. He says, do you think Dad's telling the truth, or do you think Dad's gone crazy, or do you believe any of this? And then Adam just goes to his brother, you know, why would he feel the need to make it up? And then, of course, and it gives a little bit of a clue, because there's a bit of a twist to this film, and I'm not going to give it away, but a line's used much later on by his father, which is well, actually it's used again by a different character who's a little bit more supporting the sheriff when Fenton decides to go to the sheriff's office to try to rat on his father about the murders. And I feel like that's actually a very interesting thing. Like, why would he need to make that stuff up? And he goes, oh, he's a strange child and things like that. I don't know what to do with him. So you really do get the impression that there is a sense of, you know, is there truth to this story, or is this just personally, you know, the product of someone's madness? And it's so well done. And then, of course, there's a third time in which it's referenced, and it kind of gives you a little bit of a clue to the twist, which I won't spoil. But I do think this film is masterful. I'm not going to give the twist away because I think it's just so good, and I want people to check out this film. It's a fantastic piece of work. It's Bill Paxton's only directorial effort, as far as I'm concerned, because I feel like he is a good director. I feel like I really wanted him to do more theatrical films, because I feel like this was so good, and it's just a shame that this film didn't do nearly as well as some other films that might have been made with other directors that Bill Paxton might have worked with. But I feel very sad, because I think Bill Paxton could have very easily been the Clint Eastwood or the Joel Edgerton of the early 2000s. He really could have been one of those directors, one of those actors turned directors, who really could have made such compelling films. And it's just a shame that because Frailty didn't do nearly as well, he just decided not to do directing anymore. Or maybe he did a George Lucas and he thought, directing's too tough for me, I want to go on and, you know, just write or act, because acting's easy, all you have to do is follow someone else's orders, whereas you've got to you know, manage so many different things, it's just very hard to keep track of. But it's really a shame, because he really did a good job with this particular film, and of course none of this would have been possible if it wasn't for Brent Hanley's script. I feel like his script really does add a lot of incredible weight to this story, and it's the story that really matters here, especially as far as I'm concerned with me reviewing. I feel that the story is so well crafted here, and I love how they give you little references. Like I say, the why would I need to make this up line is a very crucial line to listen to whenever you're hearing characters talk, because it really does give you a lot of clues as to what's going on. It really gives you a clue into the character's psychology, but it also really is a great way of giving you clues to the twist much later on. There is a twist to this film, so I'm not going to reveal that here. But I do think it's an incredible film. I really do wish that Bill Paxton, if he was still alive, I really wish that he would make more films, because I really do think he's a fantastic director, and it really does show here. But he brought so much joy to a lot of people's lives, and it's just really sad to know that he's gone, and that he won't be giving us such wonderful performances like Hudson anymore or anything like that. So I really do feel sad that he's gone, but I do feel like he's given such a great legacy to a lot of us. Many people quote Hudson's line "Game over, man, game over" from Aliens, or he was in Weird Science as well. So there's a lot of roles that he's had where he's literally left such a big impression on so many people's lives. And of course, if you haven't seen those films, you've seen Twister or any of his other films, Near Dark or anything like that. So you really do get the impression that he really has done a lot of good performances, and I really do feel like Frailty is one of the odd ones out. A lot of people don't know about, but I feel like people should watch it because it is a good film. It's well scripted, and it's well directed as well. And of course, I have to give a massive amount of credit to the actors who played the younger versions of Fenton and Adam. These characters, these actors did such an incredible job of selling the actual relationship between these brothers and how good they were as kids, but then of course they've grown apart since having this horrible revelation happen. But then also they resell the horror of the situation of literally watching someone get murdered in front of your eyes, and it's such a horrible subject matter to think about, but it really is compellingly written, and it really makes you feel like you really do root for these characters. And it's one of those films where I feel like I could do a comparison between, you know, this film and the Charles Lawton directed film Night of the Hunter. There's so many similarities, but then there's also so many differences as well, and it really is a great comparison. So I really do think it's incredible. And of course that was a film that was also directed by an actor turned director, Charles Lawton, and it's a real shame with that instance, because if it had done if it was done well and it actually made a lot of money and it had a great box office success, I think Charles Lawton would have gone on to be a really good director. But sadly, because Night of the Hunter was such a financial failure, he kind of lost heart, and he actually decided not to do any more directing after that. And it's a shame, because Night of the Hunter is another well-directed film, and I feel like a lot of people should see that film as well. And I think it's such an incredible piece of work. So again, it's another example of another director where they've taken a subject often involving children in jeopardy or in danger, to the motif of something like a fairy tale in the case of Night of the Hunter, and in the case of, you know, Frailty, it's more like a biblical story, like the tale of Abraham killing his son and all those sorts of things. So you really do feel that there's a lot of playful motifs going on at play here. And I would definitely recommend this film. This film's a 5 out of 5 star film for me. The writing in this film is incredible. The direction is fantastic. The performances are wonderful. And I would highly recommend this film. Honestly, if you have seen this film and you know all about the twist, let me know what your thoughts on the film is in the comments, or what you thought about that twist. If you have any other thoughts about this film, or if you have any other films that you'd want me to review for this channel, please let me know in the comments. I hope you're all having a very good day. This has been Josh with WHIMS Frailty Musings. Take care, bye-bye for now.